Okay, now we're ready for 150 pounds. Chris Blair out of Omaha Gross for the Mavericks. Jody Marple, a freshman from Altus, Oklahoma. We got a couple of wrestlers similar in symmetry here as they continue to grapple on the far side of the match as we're getting to the heavier weight classes.
Bounce, we're still neutral, guys.
This is a weight class where Central Oklahoma, due to injury, is a little bit weaker than what they normally would be, due to the fact that they got the defending national champ Sean Bateman standing over on the sidelines in street clothes tonight, and I'm sure they'd like to have him out there wrestling Chris Blair, the number 4 ranked wrestler for the UNO Mavericks.
The Broncos lead it, team scoring 10-3. The Mavericks came into this, as we've been hearing all week long, number 1 in the nation. Central Oklahoma is 3rd. And, of course, back in January 25th, we've talked about it already, but the Mavericks went down to Central Oklahoma and came out of there with a win. And that's what changed the national standings around.
That's right. Came out of there, stole the number 1 ranking right out of their backyard. But again, both of these teams, without a doubt, the most successful teams in the country in Division II wrestling. UNO's had 16 straight top 10 finishes. They've been in the top 10 out of the last 16 years. But you look over on the other side of the mat, Central Oklahoma has 13 straight top 2 finishes. That's incredible. That's incredible.
And as we mentioned, they had 4 straight number 1 finishes early in the 90s.
Coach David James for Central Oklahoma in his 15th year. He also was a University of Central Oklahoma wrestler back in 76 through 80. He was their first 4-time All-American, placing 3rd, 2nd, and winning the NAIA title twice. I mean, and obviously his success has carried over into the coaching realm as well.
Right. You know, a lot of people, obviously that they seem to gauge collegiate wrestling, and I'm talking about the casual fan or the fan that doesn't know much about it. They hear Dan Gable, Dan Gable, Dan Gable, and he's deserved everything he's earned. But when you look at Mike Denny and David James and what you just told us about David James, I mean, it tells you there's people in this sport that really know what they're doing and are very successful.
I mean, you hate to, say somebody else is the Dan Gable of the Division II ranks, but I would say David James is pretty close to those standards
he'd have to be
at this point in his career. Speaking of Dan Gable, it's a possibility that this might be his last year at the University of Iowa. He's got some health problems, just had hip replacement surgery. He's not even 50 years old yet, and just those years of constant beatings on the mat that he was doling out. Not that he ever took any beatings on the mat, but
could be an end of an era over there.
And I'll tell you, that will be a critical change in college wrestling if he's not around, because he is so dominant. His teams are so dominant in the wrestling world, and a lot of, you got to credit almost all of that to him. He's got a lot of great assistants working underneath him, and there's a lot of his former assistants are head coaches now across the country trying to duplicate his system, but, nobody able to match him at this point.
Incredible story, Dan Gable. Coming down to 15 seconds in this period, and there's no score. We're at 150 pounds, Chris Blair and Jody Marple. Blair for UNO is a sophomore. Marple is a freshman. So, again, we've got another situation where we've got kids that are going to be coming back.
Chris Blair out of Omaha Gross High School, a very dominant wrestling program over there at Omaha Gross. They've won 4 straight state titles. Chris Blair, when he was wrestling in high school, started him off with back-to-back state titles. 2 titles for himself and 2 titles for his team. Since then, they've gone on to win 2 more state titles and are in the hunt to get another one this year.
Well, Blair out of Omaha Gross, the Cougars, due to enrollment, had to move down to Class B a few years ago. But for a long time, were stalwarts in the Metro at Class A.
Chris Blair is basically probably one of the hardest working wrestlers on the UNO team, without a doubt. And that's where his success comes from. He's not the most flashy wrestler in the world, but just plain a hard worker and a tough, hard-nosed kid.
Well, for some guys, that's all it takes sometimes. They don't need, like you said, the flash and the cash. They just go at it straight ahead. You talked, too, about the better the wrestlers, too, the more basic they are.
Well, Chris Blair is we've seen a lot of the Central Oklahoma guys tonight using low single leg and low double leg attacks, and that's really kind of predominant for guys coming out of the Oklahoma area. And Chris Blair also uses that same type of attack. Nice little dump attempt by Chris Blair, unable to score.
Go center, guys.
1-0. Marple leads. He got that point with that escape a few moments ago. We got about a minute and 10 seconds left to go in this period.
I know this was a match that the Mavericks kind of expected to win. The last time these two met up, Blair did win by major decision over Marple.
Well, that wouldn't be bad to happen right now, but the way that things are going, he's going to have to move some to get that major decision.
Well, like I was talking earlier, you know, the momentum can go back and forth very easily. The last match with Verrattle winning with that takedown towards the end of the match could have swung the momentum back over and fired up some of these Broncos, especially Jody Marple having to come out here wrestling against a guy that basically handled him the last time they wrestled. And right now, Marple leads 1-0. And we're almost at the end of the second period already. So I know they expect a lot of good things out of Jody Marple, though. He was a transfer. He went to Oklahoma University before transferring over to Central Oklahoma. He, again, another one of these wrestlers came an Oklahoma native. Again, both of these guys, Chris Blair, a two-time state champ in high school, and Jody Marple, a state champion in Oklahoma. Jody Marple, like I said, Chris Blair good on his feet. Jody Marple also very good on his feet.
20 seconds to go in this period, and Marple with that 1-0 lead.
I wouldn't say experience really means a whole lot in this match. Marple, a redshirt freshman, so he's been around 2 years, but Chris Blair is a sophomore, but he's a true sophomore. He hasn't had a chance to redshirt. They were talking a little bit about redshirting him last year, and they pulled him out because they needed him in the lineup. They were talking about redshirting him this year, and they pulled him out again because of an injury to Shane Allison, a senior. They thought they'd have in the lineup this year and give Chris Blair a chance to redshirt and get a little bit more experience under his belt.
Here we go, Marple on top.
Chris Blair currently ranked 4th in the country. Every one of the guys that's ranked ahead of him is a senior.
Man.
One of them being Sean Bateman, like I said, standing on the sidelines for Central Oklahoma tonight. He's the defending national champ. He's out right now recovering from a broken hand. I think they thought he might be back tonight, but apparently they decided to hold him out.
You know, you can tell he's wrestling this match, even though he's not on the mat. We're tied at 1, by the way.
Well, even though he's over there coaching Jody Marple, I know one thing he's doing right now is he's scouting Chris Blair.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's going to see him in about 3 weeks at the national tournament. So he's going to try to, scout him, figure out a few of the things that Chris Blair likes to do, see if he can pick up on a weakness at one point or another.
You can never know your opponent too much, I think. I mean, you might be able to get over ready, but it never hurts to know you're the enemy camp.
Well, I mean, it just goes back to, we look back to 134 pounds. Brahman Creighton and Matt Goodson, they've wrestled 4 times now, and they're 2-2 against each other.
Right.
All 4 of them in overtime.
Yeah. And our first match at 118 went into OT. Chad Short and Keith Kazar. Kazar won that one. Now both wrestlers on the far side. We have less than a minute to go. We're tied at 1 in ride time. Don't even think about it. It's only 3 seconds on the clock.
Well, they can't get, neither wrestler can get riding time at this point, so this match is going to be decided by who gets a takedown at this point. I doubt that there's going to be enough stalling calls on either wrestler to make a factor in this, but 30 down to the last 30 seconds of this match, and tied up 1-1, we might see another overtime match.
Well, you had talked about that before, that we have potential to see a lot of OT here because of the even matchup.
There's a double stall warning. Apparently, referee Phil Pasali, double stall warning. But Marple had been warned
once before, that's right.
So now it's a 1 point.
Get to work, guys.
1 point penalty point for
Jody Blair,
for Chris Blair.
Chris Blair, Jody Marple, Chris Blair. You heard Phil Pasali say, "Get to work, guys," and he's telling them, "Hey, wrestle. That's what we're out here for." And earlier in this round, Pasali had some words with assistant Maverick coach Ron Higdon. And that's it. And we got to win.
Chris Blair wins with the penalty point for stalling. He's a little dismayed with his performance, I think, tonight. I know he probably thought he'd do a little bit better. He's not happy at all. That's the type of athlete that Chris Blair is. He wants to go out and dominate his opponent every time, and when he doesn't do that, he's upset about it. Even though he got the win, he's not happy with how he did.
But his 2-1 win gives the Mavericks, cuts into the team score. Central Oklahoma now leads by a score of 10-6. And we've seen another match where penalty points have really come into play. Let's move up 158 pounds.